countries, and moving forward, then things would have to be put in place. Like you have the enacting, or not the enacting, the setup of the local organizing committee, who is really responsible for the event. So the government would place the bid, but the executing authority would lie with the Dominican Cricket Association, because ICC sees the.
Clement, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you've really provided some good information initially, but we just found out that we were having a little difficulty with the audio, right? Okay. So we got some feedback from our viewers. Yeah. So can we start from the beginning? So yes, the question I asked was, what is the process? What's the process, right?
So the process is that the NCC and the questions about the invitation for bids. The individual countries, the interested countries, would then place those bids, send the bid document. And in our case, we were able to submit it. The government was able to submit it in May of this year, right? Subsequent to that, the ICC and Cricket West Indies would evaluate. There was actually a subcommittee of Cricket West Indies which dealt with the selection of the venues. For us, we in Dominica, the passion that is shown in every cricketing event, like the turnout, crowd turnout, the crowd support, the players themselves commending the crowd and wanting to play in Dominica because they feel at home, they feel appreciated. Those things would go favorably towards acceding to your bid. So Dominica was able to secure a bid over some of the other Caribbean countries based on the various aspects that could be advantageous to the event itself. Now that would have, subsequent to that, once you have secured that bid, then you'll be charged with implementing your local organizing committee. The local organizing committee is the one who is responsible for executing the event. The Dominican Cricket Association is the executing agency. So once government has secured that bid, the ICC Cricket West Indies would then go through the Dominican Cricket Association. That being done in a manner to allow the local host board or the local authority, which is Dominican Cricket Association, to continue to be independent of government. If you look, for example, what happened recently in Sri Lanka, where one of the ICC events was moved to South Africa because of government's involvement in the sport. So, and to preface our discussion as well, I am here representing Dominican Cricket Association. I wear other hats, but I have to be operate very maturely in divorcing the two because of the overall repercussions that could be meted out upon us. So it's very important for us to understand as a country as well that cricket does not share any political preference. Cricket is for the overall good of the sport. Actually, cricket is what unites many nations. You find people who are at war. Cricket was able to bring them together in times of apartheid. Cricket was able to be that bridging gap between that. So ICC is very strict on that particular mandate, in ensuring that there's a level of independence of the host board as opposed to government. But it is incumbent on both organizations to work in tandem for the better good of the country and the sport itself. So that is the perplexing area that we have to be we are in, and we have to be mature about how we move around in discussing those issues. Yes.
So having said that, and stick up in your thought, to continue. But having said that, both organizations, or both parties, the government and the cricket organization, I would imagine, DCA, right? Mm-hmm. That we're talking about. What sort of collaboration was there? I mean, what in terms of when Dominica places a bid, right, to host international matches, what is the role of the DCA? What sort of collaboration exists or takes place between the government and the DCA in that regard?
Well, in this instance, there could have been better done, to be honest. However, the communication between myself and certain key people, especially Mr. PS of Sport, then PS of Sport, Mr. Blackmore, was very, very constructive. And there were instances where I felt the response from the government was slow in coming, and I picked up my phone and had a discussion with him. Even when we noticed that things were running out of course, there were necessary actions that needed to be done, and the advice was given as to how the approach could have been done. And kudos to him. He most times he welcomed it, and we were able to have that working relationship that could lead towards the betterment of the sport. But yes, there are other instances where I felt that DCA's involvement, especially some of the, for example, the second vice president, who's also manager of the Windward Islands Volcanoes, also a person that we are very good human resource in cricket. I think there could have been that greater involvement of the expertise within DCA. Myself being also a director of Cricket West Indies, it would also work advantageous for us. But that I think more could have been done in that regard to really push whatever opportunities are.
Well, it turned out that we couldn't, after, we had indicated that we were going to get ready as a country to host, I think it was 4 matches, three matches in the in World Cup, ICC T20 World Cup. Turns out that we were not able to do that. And the government indicated that the timelines that they had to work with were not implementable. From the DCA perspective, what is your take on that in terms of our receptiveness and our efforts to get the country ready for that event?
Well, DCA always, I want to take it right now. DCA always asks of government for greater investment in sport. And one may discuss or argue that the level of investment that had to be made to host the World Cup was stiff, in understanding that a sum of almost 19 million may have to be expended in that short period of time to get that done. But I'm not one who buy onto that premise. I am one who believes that if 90 million has to be spent, that means that was 90 million that have not been spent in cricket. So we were existing on a level which was subpar to what is required on the regional and international arena. I mean, all being said, there are countries, for example, it's only Trinidad with Brian Lara Stadium that does not have a lot of expenditure to make to host those games. So that means throughout the region there is the paucity in not only resources but the facilities which would churn out world-class players. One may argue as well that the players of before did not have those opportunities, but as a counter to that, I would say that the game has advanced, the game has moved on, and we can't expect to do the same thing over this long-term period and expect a better result. So I don't see it as being too expensive. I really believe as well it's not even in keeping with good financial practices, because your stadiums, your playing areas are assets, and if those assets are in a deplorable condition, then it has to be managed. So if you're not taking care of your assets, then you're not doing well as a business, as an organization. So I see it that yes, there may have been time constraints, but we as a counter to it, we have counties who are building temporary stadiums from the ground up to host those events. So we who have those existing infrastructure, it's incumbent on us to take care of them and ensure that they're used for the intended purpose. So that is one of the areas that I have lamented. We have seen with the exception of Benjamin's Park, which has an indoor stadium, indoor practice facility. What about in Roscoe, where you have the largest population base? The cricket stadium is not always readily available for players. The botanical garden, there is also that challenge, and the conditions in which the garden is as well, it requires attention. The Dominican Cricket Association does not have that level of capital to really develop it into a world-class venue, but it is incumbent on central government to ensure that those things are in place. So and then again, it's really unfortunate that we had to lose the World Cup, the opportunity to host a World Cup, to the detriment of not only the sporting fraternity, not only to the supporters, but as well we are getting a missed opportunity where economic contributors contributions could be made by a World Cup. and that is what is very disheartening for me. Disheartening for the government association, and we are placed in a situation where we have to be uh, uh, how I'm saying, we have to be very careful in how we discuss those issues, bearing in mind the overall responsibility that we have for sports and the good working relations that we want to have with the central government, because they should be the ones who will really help foster growth and development within the sport, within their own mandate. So it is again disheartening, as I would say, when I see and I look at the myriad of opportunities that could have been available for us, inspiring our young talent, and really reinforcing the commitment from players who are in the sport, and really by having the exposure to what is it to be on the world stage, seeing or even interacting with the players, because a lot of people are unaware that even when those international teams come, we have we have netballers that we have to provide. We have support staff that we have to provide. Those individuals, the development of the human capacity around those events, you can't put a value on that. And and that is what is really for us a great lament, and we look at it as missed potential as well. And but we have to be positive in that regard, and try to commit ourselves further into ensuring that this doesn't happen in the future, and that Dominica can present itself as a nation which is befitting of being on the world stage, and competing, and providing the ambience that is second to none in the world. And that is what we should be looking at as a nation. And clearly, the way the decision was taken, and I'll be blunt with that. I only got to know it informally, that we were not able to host it. And,
But you did say earlier that you had a fairly good rapport, fairly good,
yes,
relations within
yeah,
yourself and the minister responsible,
with
minister
the
for
permanent
sport,
secretary.
or permanent secretary,
Permanent secretary.
was fairly good.
Yes.
But here you're
But he
saying that,
moved on. He
I
moved
see.
on, and then subsequent to that, I got the wind, and then I saw the letter of everybody else.
Right.
I mean, it's something that we had great expectation from the Dominican People Association. That's how we are able to keep moving. That's how we are able to really get our projects and our programs in place, and ensure that we remain buoyant, even in the difficult times when resources are really try and feeling between. So it's really something that would stick. That would be really pain. It's really painful, but at the end of the day, we have to offer hope. We have to be able to look past the this gloomy and ominous period, and tell ourselves that we can do better. I wouldn't just put it just on time constraints.
I wanted to ask you that,
Yeah,
I wanted to ask you specifically that I got the sense from what you just said,
Yeah.
that despite the government's pronouncement that it was, so there were problems, the timelines, implementation of timelines. But that I'm getting from you that there's more to it than that.
Of course.
So yeah. So tell us.
I think as a training project manager, anybody go any project, there is there is a triple constraint. You have cost, you have scope, and you have time, right? Which is schedule. And then it will overall impact the quality of the work. We didn't get that. So it can't just be time. You understand? Just the timelines itself, it doesn't sit well with me, from that informed position, right? And that is what we need to understand. I think at the end of the day, yes, there's the time factor, but there are countries who are starting from scratch to get it done within the same time period. And we had budget. Yes, the DCA looks at that as well, because we want to know where the government is going and how do we plan or strategize around that. That amount was already budgeted. Yes, it is budgeted, but you need to get money to do it. Likewise, we also saw a movement on the lighting as well, and there were changes, there were discussions about that. And I am saying that it's not just time, but we need to be open and frank and have a discussion that whether is it that at this point in time the expenditure was not available, the money was not able to be expended for that particular activity without having a detriment on something else. I mean, that discussion can be had maturely, and we all would understand that as a country, okay, well, we are in a tough time and we act accordingly. But to be to have that level of opacity and not really come out and tell or really indicate to the country what is really at stake, it gives you that, it gives you too much leeway to make assumptions. That doesn't really bode well for anyone.
All right, Clement, we did tell our viewers that this program is meant to provide them, as well as providing information to them, but provide them with the opportunity to express their views on a particular topic and ask questions. Yeah. And I have this question coming in from Kathy Marie. I think we all know who Kathy Marie is, And he says, can Mr. Marcellin tell us the projected expenses that the government had to make and what percent of the broadcast rights of the games would have been allocated to the government by the owners of the rights in the games? Well, I guess the question stems from the fact that most of the money in international cricket comes from broadcast rights, television. Yeah. And so he's asking you, I mean, what was government's projected expenditure, and what percentage of the broadcast rights, the money gotten for that, would have come to the government?
Well, that I don't have the information at this time, because it did not really be in my purview at this time.
Mm-hmm. But we have had similar international matches before, right? Well, yeah, maybe not of the ICC World Cup, but we've had other international matches. And I guess the same formula would apply, right? What is your experience in that regard? I mean, have we been able to collect enough money from what is allocated to us, which is after the matches, from the rights, to offset our own expenses here?
No, I don't think I'm not, I don't want to mislead anybody. That I can also come back to Mr. Murray, that discussion. But the broadcast rights is that with Cricket West and ICC and the other the visiting team, right? So that would not have to come to that discussion. What we get is that there's among that the Cricket West Indies would budget for the event. It would come through the executive or DCA to really to act on behalf of Cricket West Indies, and there would be a sharing with the receipts from gates and sharing of the profits from right? And that is the arrangement as well. Government would get a lot of marketing offers and some of the other things like that.
Okay, but from your own sense and the experience you've had, so far as the DCA president, and observing what is going on as a cricket enthusiast, a person very much attuned to sports, I mean, would you say that it is beneficial to the country to host those matches? I mean, these matches, whether or not we make all the money that we spend. I mean, how would you characterize that?
The World Cup matches or the ordinary?
Well, I would think international matches.
The World Cup is a step beyond.
Right.
So,
and so you're talking about a step beyond in terms of returns to the country. Yes. Okay. All right. Yes.
Yeah. The international matches as well. They do give a quick injection of into the you have, for example, the hotels, you have the tour operators, even within the execution of those tasks. For example, doing the preparation of the venue for that, you would have a vast sums of cash going out. People getting into that. The opportunity for really showcasing your country, marketing is always what government seeks to capitalize on. If you remember for the India Test series, where they discovered Dominica logo was embroidered on the plate uniform. That in itself fetches a significant price. But through and there was a lot of individuals who were asking what was government's contribution to get it because I think people within the cricketing fraternity know how expensive it is to really do that. But after the Dominica game, where we at Cricket West Indies felt that um, there was a transition from one sponsor to the other, and Dominica logo was snugly there to put up. When it went to Trinidad, um, there was discussions to really put in the brand in Trinidad. I remember having a discussion with the president, Tisho Shallow, who has that, I wouldn't say a bias, but he is very, uh, he looks out for Dominica for sure, for whatever reason it is. And we had that discussion. He said, well, Champ this discover Dominica will remain on the shirt and we could visit Dominica at the back. So we had that discussion, and that was how the Cricket West Indies honors Dominica for the passion and the whole enthusiasm they have shown towards West Indies cricket. So that comes to say, even if it's not a direct cash transfer, but you could see the attendant benefits from having a good rapport and discussion with Cricket West in how you can how the country seeks to benefit from from this effort. So yes, once there's international cricket, we stand to benefit immensely from this.
You know, I was talking to a cricket enthusiast today, right? And he was telling me that he was a little disappointed or surprised that the initial reaction of the public, which maybe on the first day or two that was announced, sort of hit the ceiling, and then it just died down. What is your take? I mean, do you share that view that the disappointment of the public, to that announcement was short-lived, or what have you observed?
Well, I think I would share that view with the individual. Uh, However, we have a tendency, and maybe one of our strengths as non-leaders to want to pass on this and try to quickly adapt. That all shows part of our resilience as a nation, as a people. I am always of the conviction that we are the most resilient people as opposed to thinking of the structures that we have. I think it's our human capital, which is very, very resilient. Um, but I, I tend to disagree in one sense in that it has gone away because I I would not be comfortable if for a Ministry of Sports where there are two ministers, I mean, we only get that. We have not heard from the Minister of Finance talking to who has to be possible economic impact that would have for withdrawal, or what was the discussion in making that decision. So I think giving the benefit of the doubt to them and to the government, I think the government would, in its time, come out and have a discussion with the people and try to, not trying, but giving the information that people could make an informed decision, whether they accept or decline. But I don't think that it should just dwindle away as like it is done deal. There's nothing, no repercussions. Nobody should be challenged on that real awful decision, I would say.
In other words, you do not see it as a
No,
nonchalant decision that they don't really, okay, we took the decision and that's it. No,
yeah, it shouldn't be
no,
that.
no, no
It
problem.
should, it
Okay, you,
should be
you
that.
don't think so.
It
You're
shouldn't be
okay.
that because
Oh,
I mean, think the opportunity that is lost. I mean, we lost we were not prepared for the 2007 World Cup because our stadium wasn't ready, right? We got into a state already. Then realized that the lighting was inadequate. I mean, prior to Mario, it was already inadequate because of the standards that was needed. At the time, the stadium was developed for what was then the standards, but now the standards have moved up a notch, and you have to make those adaptations. So clearly, that is why instead of four replacing the two that are fallen off from Mario, it was incumbent on government to put an additional 2, so it makes it up to 6 light poles, so that you could have enough ample lights that meets the international standards. So I don't just believe it is something that we just rush.
There are suggestions from some, and before I continue the question, let me just remind those viewing that we did say that we're providing you the opportunity to ask your questions, make your comments. Mr. Marie has already done so. So if there's any body out there who is watching this live stream who has a question or who wants to contribute to the conversation with a comment, then feel free to do so. Post it on our Facebook page, and we will put it to Mr. Marcellin. Okay, so having, and by the way, another reminder to the viewers that if you, those of you who have not, who perhaps are just joining, if you're having any difficulty with Facebook, you can also see it on the DNO site, DNO website, as well as on YouTube. So this is being streamed to Facebook, to the DNO website, as well as to our YouTube channel. So multiple platforms in which to watch it. Okay. What would you say, having explained what happened, given the DCA perspective on that? Moving forward, what sort of advice would you have for the government in approaching similar situations in the future?
But it's not about approaching similar situations. It has to be a sustained action, investment into sport. It should not be a case of scrambling that every time you of an event that you have to put vast amount of resources into preparation of the given for the national players. You have local soccer players as well who, if they are granted the opportunity to get the best facilities to train, which are comparable to what is required at the highest level, then you expect them to have zero excuses for their lack of performance or stymie the overall development. So I am looking forward to the government putting much more investment into the sport of cricket and sports generally, and to ensure that the opportunities provided for our players are second to none. They would really help in encouraging the players themselves into uh, taking a greater responsibility for their efforts within the sport. The issue of investment into for international games, I don't think that it is really sensible to for every game that you need to find vast amount. I'm sure that those who are in the area of managing those facilities should put preventive measures to maintain those facilities. And whenever the games come, then it's basically just turnkey and keep moving. That is what I recommend. I also look forward to, again, I want to reiterate that, having many more first-class venues on island, right? Currently, we have 2. We have the Windsor Park Sports Stadium and the Benjamin Park. The Botanic Garden, although we have played the first-class games there, right now there's that slant that makes it very difficult. The facilities there needs a great upkeep. We had Grand Bay, which provides great prospect for that, but we have not been able to get Grand Bay back up into good stead. Likewise, there's Live Park in Marigot, which has been basically abandoned for a while as well, and footballers using there. But I think if we see government putting much more investment into those playing areas or those sporting facilities, we could see also having sub-regional and regional tournaments in here, which also would add into our sports tourism initiative. Well, in the government sports tourism initiative, that would be a welcome opportunity, because we would need at least 3 or 4 venues for Windward Islands tournament. So what we have seen over the years is that our teams have to travel towards St. Lucia, St. Vincent, because of the availability of those facilities, the non-availability of facilities in Dominica. Likewise, if we have regional tournaments where Barbados, Guyana, on the 19th, we could be able to host that, providing opportunities for our those who have accommodations like the hotels and guest houses, the restaurants. They have to do the catering, the tour or taxi drivers and tour operators who would have to do the transportation from venues, those with laundromats who have to provide those ancillary services towards the event itself. So we're looking forward to that. We have to remain optimistic. I just hope that the difficulty in not being able to source the fund, well, the difficulty as I have to go with um, the government statement in that the timelines. I hope because of the difficulty in the timelines that resource that is sitting there now could go towards those facilities to help develop and put us a better case for if whether we could get regional games like the West Indies 4-day tournament. That is one area that we could get home games for at least the Windward Islands, the volcanoes would come to play there. That in itself would account for filling up some of the rooms on island. Um, and we could also bid for other events that is sanctioned by the West Indies. So those opportunities are there. They are not comparable to the World Cup, but I am somebody who don't dwell too long on negative. I look positive and everything. Let us now that we have dropped the ball in this one, as in cricket, we need to forget and now look out for the other one to ensure that we can catch it and maximize the opportunities and turn the one percenters into good opportunities for us.
Okay, on a local level, Clement, are there any sources of funds? When I say on a local level, I mean bringing it back to the DCA,
Yes.
the Cricket Association. Are there any sources of funds that the association can tap into to assist in implementing its own program?
Well, that is what we have been doing. I really thank you for that question, Tim. A lot of emphasis is now, as you may see, for social media, is on the Dream 11 project. That is one of our flagship projects that came up from looking in discussion with St. Vincent at the time had it. Dr. Shallow pointed us into a contact. Um, and then we were able to have the first Dream 11 within the COVID period. I remember the DCA working really hard in writing up the conceptual notes for that initiative, presenting it to the government, because by that time we needed to get the government blessings because we could not have sporting events because of the COVID restrictions. Um, we had to do everything from scratch, building even the names. And I remember staying the board into saying, hey guys, if we're going to do that, we need to be able to market our country. Let's make it like a country and sell our products because we're going to be streaming to an Indian market. And that is why the names come up. You have the Barata Warriors, you have the Indian River Rowers, you have the Titubur Splashers, the Sarasari Sunrisers, you have the Valley Hikers, highlighting the 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 tourism aspect of our country, so that whenever it is viewed in India or across the globe, um, even in Australia, uh, the people would have a good sense of what Dominica has to offer, and by that, providing a great platform to push our country forward. And the Discover Dominica came on board. If you note all our uniforms, so we have the logo, the branding of because they had just um, launched the new branding of Dominica, the new logo. And we felt it not only a sense of pride, but also it would be really savvy for us to be able to push our what is ours out there on the world stage. So that came through, and right now, currently, we are planning it from the 9th to the 23rd to have another version of it. So what it does is that we are able to make those short tournaments, getting the returns from it, and then reinvest it back into the longer versions for our premier tournament. Thankfully, we have that great support from the private sector. Our last Premier Division tournament was ably supported by NCC. It was named after NCC because NCC came in and bought a significant amount in owning the league. We have our intermediates division, which we're also in discussion with another private private sponsor corporation into owning that league and getting the rights of naming that league after them as well. This year, the Dream 11 tournament again is being sponsored. The second one for the year has been the headline sponsor being Twapita Water and Coca-Cola coming on board greatly. We have the TGI group who has been always there supportive of this year's initiative, and numerous other companies being there owning a team, or even D-Threads owning a team as well. And that resource is able to be used to one pay staff at the DCA, because we know our income streams are very limited. And that's one of our objectives is within our strategic plan is to increase the amount of income streams that we have, so that the organization is not limited by the lack of resources. And that in itself will allow us to ensure that the standard of cricket being played continue to improve. Cricket is a very expensive sport to run. It consumes a vast amount of resources, and we are all forever grateful for the contributions by sponsors and those corporate citizens by coming and investing into the sport and inadvertent, directly into the lives of the young people. Because at the end of the day, you have 11 guys on the park on one team and 11 on the other. You have the umpires and you have ground staff and you have scorers, and the list goes on, and they are able to be gainfully employed for that 2 weeks in getting the job done. Albeit it is I would love to have seen it at the night where we could have a larger Dominican crowd come to support, but because of the timing in which it is broadcast in India, because it is done for that market, then it has to be in daytime. So that is how we are able to generate our income to help strengthen the sport. Sometimes as well, when we have international matches, we are able to benefit from that.
Okay. Before going to the final segment of this interview with Clement Marcellin, the president of the Dominican, almost said he was
President of Dominica.
Who knows? Who knows? The future's ahead of us.
Yeah.
But the president of the Dominica Cricket Association. I just want to remind viewers again that you have an opportunity to ask questions or make any comment that you want. People are commenting, but not specifically, aimed at Clement Marcellin, or not specifically commenting about cricket, because I know we have a lot of avid cricket lovers in this country. Okay, you are also a member of the West Indies board.
Yes.
Right. So I mean, let me I guess it's not too late to congratulate you. It happened some time ago, but this first time I'm talking to you. One of the concerns that has existed in the region for some time, many years, for a number of years, was that somehow cricketers from the smaller islands were being sidelined, for the cricketers from the major developing countries, whether you want to call them that, the bigger countries of the Caribbean. As a member of the board of directors, we noticed in recent times that the number of our cricketers have made it to West Indies level. Alec Athanels, Kevin Hodge, Stephen Pascal. What is your own, view at this stage about the provision of opportunities, right, to play at that level to our cricketers, not only in Dominica but in the windwards,
That's a question. But thanks again for asking that question. I noticed you are basically trying to bring up the ugly issue of insularity that was once questioned.
That's right.
Well, I think I can answer that quickly. What I have noticed from my short stint so far as the director of the West Indies, every meeting before we commence the meeting, Dr. Shalom makes it a point of duty to indicate that let's all discuss the issues of West Indies cricket, the force of it. That in itself is one that allows you to think as, as the organization as a whole, as opposed to you from Barbados, you from Guyana, you from Dominica, you from. At the end of the day, your contribution here is towards contributing to the organization, looking at it from a point as a growing concern, how growing concern as to how long the cricket will remain, how long our brand will remain strong, how what can be done to for the benefit of the organization as opposed to you holding on to tilts and but coming to the discussion about having Ali Anthony, Steph Pascal, and Calvin Punch, one has to also take into consideration the significant investment that was made into the lives of those young, whether be it from family. One may say, Stefan, and I want to point it out by each player. Stefan Pascal has a very strong family support. His dad was once a member. We served together on the Dominican Cricket Association with PRO. I remember going to the under 14 games. I didn't have any child in there. I was just on the Cricket Association, and there were two guys from my community who made it to the team. So I felt to be that support. The parents were not able to go. I was able at the time. We every December when there's the under 13 tournament, we would have gone to support those guys, right? So we saw that investment from family and people, well wishers. That makes the helps in strengthening the player. Ali Kapanaz had a very good coach, still have a very good coach at the Dominica Cricket Association's Academy, where that this investment was made into giving the young guys the opportunity to train on a Saturday, on a weekend, give them the life skills, give them the proper tools to go within the sport. Likewise, Carmen Borge was also an investment under the leadership of Mr. Emmanuel Nanton, where he was able to access training from the Darren Lemons Academy in Australia. So those players, you see them today performing, but a lot of people see them at that point in their career. But when the toil had to be done, it was the investment in some way, sort of form, from the Dominican Cricket Association, the efforts by our government in some instances to get them to that level. What one may compare it with is why it's only now. I think it is a good question to ask why only now, because we need much more investment to get in more fellas, more players onto the games, onto that level, and dominating the cricket. So it is something that we as Dominicans need to be proud of, that we are able now to break through and not just look at it as we were deprived of the opportunity before. Some may consider that. I think selection is another point which is sacrosanct, and as an administrator, I can't really question selection too much. But now that we are here, where we have players, we need to find how many more that each player could pull up onto that level. If there's a Justin Alexander that needs to be pulled up, and I will call his name publicly because he's one who I have great confidence in and would want to see him really push. There's a Taj Tavernier as well. There are many other players, a Gillan Tyson, there's a Gian Benjamin, and those players need that support. Courtney Anslem, and I want to take that time to really talk on Courtney's case. Courtney works construction, and Courtney may have to travel from Grand Bay to Penville on some instances, and then come to train. How do you expect him to be able to get up to that level of fitness to come to compete at the national trials? These are some of the issues that we are plagued with, where we need to have the resources to allow the players to get the right opportunities to train and to be able to get onto the world stage. They have immense talent, and it's just to have the right structures in place and the right supporting mechanisms to really improve their overall game. not only as a player but as a person as
well. Okay, I have a couple of comments here for you, Clement. One person said the only way for the brand to remain strong is by showcasing the best talent in the region. And I guess nobody's going to deny that, right?
Nobody's going to deny that, right? Yeah, that's a good point. West Indies has not been winning. We have to be we have we have to be honest with ourselves. We have not been winning frequently. However, the brand is strong. If you look at the last World Cup, a lot of people would comment that their West Indies was really missing it in that. I think the brand of cricket that we play is unique to us, and it is appreciated by the world. We have the talent, but it's to getting everybody performing it as one unit consistently, and that is one of the main issues for us. We're optimistic that we will get it right and become at the top of the world as we want to.
Okay. And that comment came from David Blatcher. There's another one. Here's another one from Clyde Shillingford, and he asks, "Are the improvements to the Windsor Park do they only have to do with the lighting to get it to international standard, or are there other factors as well?"
There are other factors. There are other factors. You want to, I think initially the standard that we were aiming for is the world standards, where you would have additional dressing rooms, so you have posted, if you have a double header, then all teams would be comfortably sitting in the dressing room like that, what is obtained at Brian Larry Stadium, where you have 4 dressing rooms, right? In our case in Dominica, that would be a significant investment as well. There were considerations given to allow, would remove the issue of double headers to allow it not to be restrictive for us in that kind of way. But there are other adjustments that have to be done. Likewise, there were basic, not basic, but there are things that, for example, let me just be straight up. For example, the practice nets, right? There would be a certain standard that is required for that facility, and it would have to be augmented. Apart from the lights, which would be the most capital intensive one to undertake, the others could have been done.
Okay. All right. Clement Marcellin, I mean, I could keep you here for a long time. Right? But you know, there are other things happening in life, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm sure you stand ready to come back at some stage when there's some stuff we can talk about, you know. Let me just see before we wind up here whether there's any other comment. Okay, no, not that I see. You know, in the chat.
Just so it would be remiss of me to leave here and not encourage the Dominican public to really come out and support the junior level Taste of Nature, which runs from 9th to 23rd of December. The game starts at 12 o'clock each day. We have 2 games each day, and it's really exciting cricket. It's the T10 version of the shortest format of the game, and we really want to have all coming out and giving the local and some of the international players the great support, because with each team there are 2 foreign players, right? Giving us the great support, coming in and really enjoying what is there to offer, creating that lovely atmosphere within the Windsor Park Sports Stadium, and then further by your presence is a clear indication that we are passionate about cricket, and we are advocating for greater investments in our cricket and greater support, not only from the private sector, but from government's standpoint as well, pumping in some of the resources into ensuring that our players are given the best opportunities to compete. And I come back to the issue of insularity. If there's no reason why a player in Barbados would be exposed to better training facilities than a more talented Dominican. That should not be a case in 2023. It should not have been a case in 2000. And let us look forward to giving our players the best. And I think we could say we did our best for them. And if they fail, then they won't be able to blame anybody but themselves. And And that is how I look at things in life. We have to be proactive, we have to be optimistic, and we have to be realistic as well. There should not be the fact that Dominica, and that is one of the other laments that I have. Every tournament we go to, once Dominica comes out, everybody would see the sheer talent within our players, but we are unable to beat. And I think it comes with the reason for our preparation. You go to the Botanic Gardens, right? I want to also bring up that point. You go to the Botanic Gardens to play cricket, and by 4 o'clock, you have footballers cursing you because they want to share the same space. And the garden is under the responsibility of this year. But what do we do? Do we pick fights with the footballers, or we learn to share it? Now, while learning to share it, something is suffering. Why is it that you be in a net and at the stadium, and your concern from the coach is try not to hit it over the road, while somebody else is in another country, they are being encouraged to hit it as fast as they can? And those things we have to understand and plan accordingly to ensure that the best opportunities are afforded to our players, best opportunities are afforded to our people, and our country enjoys those opportunities.
All right, and you may be further encouraged to hear, Clement, that David Blatcher, who made a comment a short while ago, is saying it's not intended for us, but I think it's important enough to mention that there are 3 of us in the UK who recently started a group to raise funds to assist the academy in providing the best for Dominican cricketers.
Yes.
So you'll be happy to hear that.
Yeah, they were there with raising funds on sometime last month for the Dominican.
Okay, great.
Those were welcome funds at the time when the academy really needs that kind of money, because it's a lot to run the academy. It really consumes a lot, and we're looking forward to those listening from wherever you are, and you are able to pump in those finances, so you're able to assist the cricket fraternity. That would be welcome, and we'll be forever grateful for these contributions.
Okay, so Clement Marcellin, thank you. Thank you very much.
Pleasure was all my team. I look forward to doing that anytime. I just want to wish Dominicans here abroad all the best, and let's continue to put our hands to the plow for our country. Regardless of our differences, we need to be able to unite and continue pushing them forward.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you to all of you for watching. We'll see you again next time. We'll let you know when we have when we're putting out public, showing you, bringing to you another edition of Ask DNO. Thank you.
All right.